Stop for a second. If you've got a raised bed, a patch of ground, a few containers on a porch, or even one pot in a sunny corner, what I'm about to walk you through is worth more than anything you'd spend at the garden center this whole season. It's July, and right now, most gardeners are making one of the most expensive mistakes in home gardening without realizing it. They think the season's over. Tomatoes are in, zucchini's climbing, the first beans are picked, and they've quietly decided the next planting happens next spring. So the beds sit there, wasted. Here's what those gardeners don't know. July soil is the warmest it will be all year. A seed that took 2 slow weeks to sprout back in April pushes through in 4 or 5 days right now. The ground is primed, the days are still long, and there are 15 vegetables sitting in seed packets and nursery trays right now, waiting on you, that can go from seed to your kitchen table before the first frost shuts everything down. Some are ready in as little as 3 weeks, and one, the very last on this list, has a hard deadline. Miss it by even 2 weeks and it won't finish. Planted this week, though, and it'll be on your table this Thanksgiving, fresh from your own backyard, while everybody else digs through the freezer aisle. 15 vegetables. 15 reasons your garden isn't finished yet. Let's get into it. The vining trio: cucumbers, zucchini, and bush beans. First up, the vining crops that most people give up on way too early. Cucumbers, zucchini, and bush beans all share the same problem in July and the same fix. By mid-July, cucumber vines planted back in May are usually done. Powdery mildew has covered the leaves and production has slowed to almost nothing. Most folks just move on. But here's the move that changes everything. Plant a fresh round right now. Warm July soil germinates cucumber seed in 4 to 6 days, faster than spring. A plant going in now hits peak production in September once the worst August heat has broken, disease pressure has dropped, and the fruit tastes crisper than anything grown in the thick of summer. Most varieties run 60 to 70 days from seed to harvest, so plant today and you're slicing cucumbers by mid-September. One thing separates a thriving patch from a struggling one: grow them vertically. A trellis, a fence panel, bamboo poles, anything that lifts the vines off the ground. Vines lying flat sit in still, damp air, exactly where powdery mildew takes hold. Get them climbing, and airflow moves around every leaf. The disease can't get a foothold, and the fruit hangs out in the open where you can find it before it turns bitter. Zucchini has a different enemy, and it's why so many gardeners quietly give up on it: the squash vine borer. That moth lays eggs at the base of the stem in late spring and early June. The larvae tunnel in from the inside, and the plant wilts and collapses almost overnight. It looks like disease. It isn't. It's timing. In most northern and midwestern zones, that moth finishes its main egg-laying cycle by late June or early July, so a zucchini plant going in now misses the window entirely. Seeds germinate in 4 to 7 warm July days, and your first fruit shows up in 40 to 50 days. Further south, where vine borers run 2 generations a year, a row cover over young plants for the first 3 weeks gives you the same protection. Harvest at 6 to 8 inches every time, no exceptions, because picking pushes the plant to set 2 more, while leaving one too long slows the whole plant down. Bush beans follow the same pattern. Most people plant once in spring, pick through June, watch things slow, and figure that's just how beans behave. It isn't. That's just how one planting behaves. Beans sown in July germinate in 8 to 10 days in warm soil, faster than any spring sowing, and reach harvest in 50 to 55 days, putting fresh beans on your plate in September when cooler nights bring out a sweetness summer beans don't have. For reliable germination, keep the seed moist until it sprouts. July heat can dry the top inch of soil within hours after watering, so a thin layer of straw mulch over the row holds moisture in through the heat of the day. Check daily, and the moment you see green sprouts, pull the mulch back for full light. For July sowing, look for Danvers or Nance types, shorter and stockier than long varieties, and they push through average summer soil without needing a deep, perfectly loosened trench. Plant now, pull sweet, cold-kissed carrots in October and November. If you've gotten this far, you already know more than July planting gardeners on your street. Drop a comment and let us know what you're growing. This circle only gets more useful the more of us share what's working in our own backyards. Roots worth the wait. Radishes, carrots, beets, and turnips. Now let's talk roots, because this is where the real fall sweetness comes from. Radishes, carrots, beets, and turnips all get better, not worse, once the weather starts to cool. Radishes have a reputation for being sharp and bitter, and that comes down to two avoidable mistakes. The first is bolting. Heat and long daylight trigger radishes to send up a flower stalk, and one planted in early July matures during the hottest, longest days of the year, turning pithy, hollow, and hot. The fix, plant in the second half of July. Seed sown around the 20th or later matures in August and September, when temperature and day length are easing off, meaning sweeter, milder roots. The second mistake is leaving them in the ground too long. Most varieties are ready in 22 to 28 days, and past that, they turn hollow within days. Check your seed packet, mark your calendar, and pull them on time. Carrots are probably the most complained about July planting there is, and nearly every complaint traces to one cause. Carrot seed is tiny, sitting in the top quarter-inch of soil, and July heat dries that layer out completely within hours of watering, so the seed dries out before it can sprout. Here's the fix. After sowing, lay a piece of burlap or a wooden board right over the row to hold moisture in through the heat of the day. Check underneath every morning, and the moment you see green sprouts, pull the covering for full light. For July sowing, look for Danvers or Nance types, shorter and stockier than long varieties, and they push through average summer soil without needing a deep, perfectly loosened trench. Plant now, pull sweet, cold-kissed carrots in October and November. Beets deserve better than the can most of us grew up with. A beet harvested at exactly the right size, roasted or eaten raw the same day, is earthy and rich in a way that makes people understand for the first time why anyone bothers growing them. July planted beets take 55 to 70 days, ready in September and October, once cool weather has sweetened the root. Pull them when the shoulder, the part visible at the soil line, is 2 to 3 inches across. Past that, the texture turns woody. Chioggia beets, the Italian variety with pink and white rings inside, are some of the most striking roots you can grow. Turnips have an image problem because most people have only eaten large, old ones that turn starchy and sharp the longer they sit. Pull one at golf ball size, around 2 inches across, and it's an entirely different vegetable. Mild, sweet, crisp enough to eat raw. Turnip greens are edible from day 30 onward, a full 2 to 3 weeks before the roots, and cook just like mustard greens. One packet of seed gives you greens in a month and roots in 6 to 7 weeks. Hukari, the Japanese salad turnip, is smooth, white, and genuinely mild raw. Plant now for greens and roots through September and October. Greens that get better in the cold. Lettuce, kale, chard, New Zealand spinach, arugula, and collards. Now, for the greens, and this is where July planting really earns its keep, because most people assume summer is a dead zone for leafy vegetables. It isn't. It's just a matter of choosing the right ones. Lettuce has a built-in limit. Once air temperatures push consistently above 80 degrees, most varieties stop making leaves and start making a flower stalk instead, flooding with bitter compounds. That's bolting, and it's why most gardeners give up on summer lettuce. But there's a fix that costs nothing: shade. Lettuce tucked under a tomato cage, along a taller crop, or beside a fence blocking western sun sits 10 to 15 degrees cooler, often enough to keep it making leaves instead of flowers. Look for seed labeled slow bolt or heat tolerant, widely available at garden centers. Harvest the outer leaves and leave the center intact, and one planting keeps producing from the inside out for weeks. Kale gets treated like a spring-only crop, but the gardeners who plant it in July and leave it through the first fall frost are eating a different food by October. Cold triggers kale to convert stored starches into sugar, so the leaves that follow a frost are noticeably sweeter and tender than anything it produced all summer. That's why restaurants charge more for autumn kale. Plant it now, and summer heat won't slow it down. It grows steadily through August and September, and then the nights turn cold, and the plant you put in the ground in July becomes the best thing in your garden. Lacinato, also called dinosaur kale, and red Russian are the two varieties most recommended for fall flavor. Harvest the outer leaves, leave the center, and one plant produces into November in milder zones. Swiss chard just keeps going, while spinach bolts and lettuce turns bitter, handling summer heat and the first light frosts of fall without slowing down. Here's something most people never figure out until they grow their own. Charred leaves and stems are really two separate ingredients. The leaves wilt fast in a hot pan, ready in under 2 minutes, while the stems need 4 or 5 more minutes on their own. Chop them apart at harvest. Cook the stems first, add the leaves at the end. The rainbow variety, with stems in deep red, yellow, orange, and white, is one of the most striking things you can grow. Plant now, harvest through November. Traditional spinach can't survive July. Heat and long days push it to bolt within days of germinating. New Zealand spinach is a completely different plant, mild and slightly earthier, that works the same way in cooked dishes, but grows right through summer heat without bolting. It spreads low and wide, tolerates drought better than any conventional green, and produces continuously as long as you keep harvesting. Soak seed overnight to speed germination, and pick the tender growing tips regularly. The more you harvest, the more it branches. Store-bought arugula is almost always older than it looks, losing the compounds responsible for its peppery bite within a day or two of harvest. Fresh, cut the same day, has a bright, clean, peppery snap. For July growing, harvest small. Baby leaves, 2 to 3 inches, are mild and delicious, while full-sized leaves turn intensely peppery. Harvest at 21 to 25 days, cut with scissors, leave the roots, and new leaves grow back in 10 to 12 days. Plant a small patch every couple of weeks for continuous arugula through fall. Collard greens are the toughest leafy vegetable in the home garden, more cold tolerant than almost anything else you can plant in summer. In warmer zones, collards planted in July produce fresh leaves straight through fall and into early winter, and the first frost doesn't end them, it improves them through that same starch-to-sugar conversion, only deeper. Even in colder zones, a hard freeze eventually ends the season, but not before 2 or 3 months of the best collards of the year. Give plants 18 inches of space and harvest the lower outer leaves first. The plant keeps producing upward from the center for months. The deadline crops, scallions and Brussels sprouts. Almost there. 2 more, and one of them has a deadline you genuinely cannot miss. Scallions, or green onions, belong in a different category because they're fast. Push seed into warm July soil today, and sprouts appear in 7 to 10 days, ready to harvest in about 60. They barely need space. A 6-inch strip along the edge of a bed supplies a kitchen for months. The habit most people skip: don't pull the whole plant. Snip the green tops about an inch above the soil, leave the base in the ground, and new tops grow back in 10 to 14 days. 2 to 3 cuttings from one planting. And now the one I've been building toward. Brussels sprouts need 80 to 100 days to reach harvest. Plant in July, harvest in October and November. Wait until August, and in most of the country, they won't finish before frost. Wait until September, and the window's closed entirely. July isn't a suggestion for this one, it's a hard deadline. In colder zones, start seed indoors now and transplant out in 2 to 3 weeks, keeping them watered consistently while they establish. In warmer zones, direct sowing works fine. Here's what changes how most people think about this vegetable. The Brussels most of us have eaten were harvested weeks before we bought them and shipped cold. Fresh sprouts cut from the stalk after the first hard frost carry a natural sweetness and nutty depth the grocery store version can't match. Because cold triggers that same starch-to-sugar conversion that sweetens kale and collards, only more dramatically. This Thanksgiving, while everyone else opens a freezer bag, you could be cutting a full stalk of sprouts you planted with your own hands in July. 15 vegetables, 15 reasons your garden isn't finished until you decide it is. The soil is warm, the days are still long, and every seed you put in the ground this week is a harvest you'd have missed completely if you'd stopped in June like most gardeners do. So pick one, just one. Start there today. If you're part of this circle, you know the best part of growing your own food isn't just what ends up on the plate. It's sharing what worked, what didn't, and what surprised you along the way. So tell us in the comments which one you're planting first, and drop your growing zone if you know it, because somebody gardening in your exact climate is reading those comments right now, looking for exactly what you're about to share. If this helped you see your garden differently, consider staying in the circle. There's always another season's worth of lessons coming your way. Now go get your hands in the soil. There's still time to grow something worth waiting for.